Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 36 of the Historical Humans podcast. And today I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Aaron Gilpin and Colum Coleman, and I'm Justin Woods. And today we are actually going to be talking about something quite interesting. We are venturing down to Central America yet again, but this time we're not talking about failed colonies. No. We are talking about civilization.
Yeah, we get to talk about the indigenous culture this time, and not the Scottish trying to sell wool in a tropical environment. Dear God.
Was that really the last time we did a Central American episode?
That was the last time we were in Central America on the podcast.
Scheme.
We do visit many places around the world in our other series. However, it is the last time it had a podcast spotlight. Was our wonderful Scottish endeavor.
And that was
God
back in
save
season
us.
1. Yeah, that was.
I mean, to be fair, this is the only series that matters, right?
Well, we'll
This
see
is the
about
only
that,
one.
but
Anyway, we decided for this one that we were going to put one of these smaller series actually in the spotlight with today's podcast subject. That would be our HH Heritage, as today's subject, the Disquis stone spears, are in fact a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
so be on
we're
the
gonna
lookout.
actually
For that episode.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit more in depth on the culture and the site and other things than we would normally get to do in our 10 minutes heritage videos, because there's a lot of fun controversy around these spears.
Oh, don't worry, we'll still do a heritage video on the site if you want a more condensed version.
Yeah, this place is hilarious. So
Wow, I can't believe I did a really good impromptu segue on that. That was awesome.
yay! We're not scripted and we're learning.
Aaron just leveled up. Aaron is now level 2.
Does this mean I get paid?
No.
Damn it.
No, but it means you can buy stuff at the gift shop.
I couldn't. We have a. Oh, I guess that's a great.
We do have a gift shop. Humanitarian Collections. Check it out.
Man, the plugs are coming in. We are rolling.
But yes,
Wow.
we will be. Justin, would you like to run through the pronunciation of some things for us right here as we talk about the Disquis culture that made these wonderful spears?
The Disquis culture emerged in the valley of the Rio Grande de Terraba of Costa Rica. So like I said, we're back in Central America, which is quite a change because, I think a lot of people hear about the Inca, they hear about the Aztec, the Maya, but those are only just a few.
Yeah, and
there's no human sacrifice. What's the point?
Whoa.
Well, no. Well, one of the fun
Let's
things
face it, that's what a lot of them like.
One of the fun things. Stop it. One of the fun things about the Disquis is, unlike a lot of Central or South American cultures that you do hear about, the Disquis were not expansionistic. For the entirety of their, I believe, 3,000-year existence, they only ever inhabit this one river valley along this one river and its tributaries. They are a small cultural center. They are not exactly, these massive, expansive empires that cut across, multiple nations in the modern world. They're literally just a valley of people.
I respect it. So they're just like, this valley's good enough for me. We don't need anything else. We're just going to chill for 3,000 years.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, have you guys? We know how hard it is to like just try to be expansionist. We've seen what it happens. It just doesn't lead anywhere good. Just chill in the valley.
Yeah.
With the Rattling Bog. Rattling Bog down in the valley.
We're letting things that happened in D&D seep into the Historical Humans podcast again. I see
another plug.
Oh, no.
Oh, that one. Why? The Mind Flare ate the audio for that episode too, so no one gets to hear it. You just look.
What?
Yeah, no, your audio.
Yeah, apparently, when I asked whether or not everything was working, no one thought to press play on the audio.
This all happened at twitch.tv/ILofGaming, and we are going to transition back to the culture.
Please, for the love of God. All right, I'm just going to start saying Spanish words now, despite having never taken a Spanish course in my life and having no idea what anything sounds like.
Okay, so you're talking the first period here.
Yeah, let's begin with the first period of the Disquis,
which began in the Sinankra period of 1500 to 300 BCE, which consisted of small dispersed farming communities, and it was possibly egalitarian in nature with a tribal social organization. So everyone lived in kind of their own little areas. It was a little bit dispersed. It was spread apart. They were all pretty much equal. I really, you're really turning me onto this culture. I think they got something right.
Yeah, and so this egalitarianism is largely assumed by the point at this time that there is not a lot of specialization visible in the culture, at least not in the archaeological record. There isn't a lot of differentiation in, say, living arrangements, housing structures between people who might be, leadership and people who might not. So it is considered relatively egalitarian because, let's be honest, if you found out that Jeff Bezos lived in the same kind of house as you, you'd be questioning a lot of things about capitalism.
No, Jeff Bezos should be in the same house as me.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
I was going to say, I don't hear anything wrong with that.
Yeah, fuck Jeff Bezos.
And now you're questioning things about capitalism. Welcome. Oh, You'll get to do more of that later when we introduce our surprise star of this show.
Ooh, I can't wait. I hope it's a good one.
Oh, it's wonderful. I have whole speeches planned out about this person.
Oh God,
it's great.
Hey, where's my Karl Marx soundboard? Hold on a second.
Yeah. Well, Aaron looks for that. We'll go a little bit further ahead to the next period. Justin, just keep speaking all the Spanish for me, please.
Yes, which the next period developed during the Aguas Buenas period of 300 BCE to 800 CE. Sorry. And
the culture developed.
Yeah.
And this is where we start seeing social structure come into play. The settlements become organized into actual territories with boundaries. There is an actual form of centralized government running things. It becomes a it becomes a full-on chiefdom structure. There is intercommunal trading networks going on. It's no longer just you are living on your farm, making everything for yourself, having kids, dying, repeat. There is now actual trades and goods and crafting specializations.
Which I find that part to be the most fascinating because that's a point that I think I've hammered home on a number of podcasts and other episodes. But when you start seeing the specialization of work, you start understanding a lot more with the society because obviously it became significantly more stratified. You start seeing different social hierarchies and structures. You see these trade networks. This all comes pretty much everywhere across the world. We see this happen whenever there's a food surplus. Once you start able to make enough food to where you can support people who don't farm all the time for subsistence, like you start seeing people actually skillfully work on things, and that's when you start seeing a lot more artwork, a lot more crafts, and in this case, you start seeing the stone cylinders or barrels. You start seeing really intricate stoneworking.
So what you're saying is when people have more food and require less people to do work to make that food, it means people have more time to sit around and think and come up with stuff.
Whoa. This is a capitalist podcast. No, we need everyone working. You're not allowed
Since when?
No, I think that's...
wait, I'm an unpaid intern. That explains a lot.
The fruits of capitalism.
So in this period, we see the earliest sort of stonework monuments here. They start off as these sort of barrels or cylinders. Some of them actually get carved rather beautifully, and we also see the first depiction, the first depictions of characters on stone. They actually do, etch in, images of living things. and we even get the first stone spears, or what would be classed as stone spears later on. These are much rougher than what would come to be the Disquis stone spears that are so very popular today in Costa Rica.
So, if in case anyone doesn't know, can you explain a little bit about? By anyone, I mean me. This is actually the first time I've been hearing about these stone spears.
Yep. What do you want to know?
Are they just like just that stone spears?
It's
Like
actually it's literally a rock that has been sanded and carved into a spear.
Huh.
like
It
a
is
throwable
stone spear. It is like you know how if you go to Target, there's those little red balls that are supposed to prevent cars from flying through the front door like it's the opening of Blues Brothers?
Is that actually a thing?
That's actually a thing at Target.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's the actual purpose for them?
well,
No,
yeah,
that's not the actual
they're
purpose. There was
ballers.
no cars on in the
No,
Disquis.
not the spears. I mean at Target.
Yes,
at Target. That's the actual purpose of the Target spears. But
Oh.
basically, they look like those, except they're not painted gaudy red.
So it's just actual the spears.
It's
Wow.
actually someone carved an orb the size of a person into a spear.
That's actually really cool. I like
That is
that.
what is happening. And there is so much controversy around what the hell are these spears.
I was
So,
like literally
for
exactly
people
thinking.
That's the
watching
entire
on-
back half of the podcast notes. Is
So
what the
everyone
hell are we
watching on
looking
YouTube, you can actually see on the screen I've pulled up the spheres. They're quite literally just round balls of stone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The
thing
world's
is,
largest game
Spears.
of billiards is about to be played.
and they're like
Spears.
they're the size of a man. And I'm sorry, Aaron. Why do you keep repeating that?
Because I was saying spears. The
Spears?
throwing spears.
No!
That is
Spear.
literally what I
Spear.
heard.
Spheres.
Go back to geometry.
Wait. So you think just outside of Target, they've got a line of pikemen that as cars drive up, they're flinging spears through the windshield.
I was literally imagining like spears like in Costa Rica that are like stones sticking like up or like
What
being...
Mad Max shopping experience have you
Do they
had?
have Sam Walton's head just on a spike outside the store?
Actually no, it's Cromwell's. They actually
No, it's
found
William
it.
Wallace's.
Oh, okay. Three different. I went with Target's like natural enemy, Walmart, their founder. You guys went historical.
Okay, so
Well,
spears.
next time we are going to be doing
Spears.
Cromwell, so just so Aaron wins that round, Justin.
Okay,
I
yeah,
can't
because
believe
I
it.
could have swore Colum was saying spears
No,
this
spears.
entire time.
All right, tell us you didn't read the notes without telling us you didn't read the notes.
Well, no, because I was very confused. Because so these spheres I have seen pictures of, but I could have swore he was saying spears, so that's why
They're
I was.
homophones. This is English.
So giant spheres, size of a person's, not for bowling.
I'm gonna go cry now. I'm gonna go cry for a little bit. But
Just please
anyway,
leave some hate remarks towards Aaron in the comments down
Anyway.
below.
That's why
Anyway.
I'm unpaid.
Justin,
Yes.
let's get to our third era, so I have to stop worrying about all the Spanish.
Yes. Which the civilization grew during the Chiriqui? Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know,
period.
right? That's
I butchered that one, but that was
Yeah.
during 800 to 1500 CE, so it actually is a little bit more present than the past.
Yeah. This is Disquis culture proper. This is where they reach their apex. It's the height of their civilization. It's where almost all the stone spears come from. The Disquis have grown into large alluvial settlements along the Taraba and its tributaries, which is just to say that they are living on the floodplain itself, right up to the riverbank, which is not that uncommon for communities that are heavily dependent on rivers for farming and sustenance.
Which,
So they're
to be
doing pretty good for themselves.
Actually,
Yep.
that's like one of the best places because my instant thought is with the seasonal flooding of the rivers, but at the same time that brings up new soil and new fertile soils.
Yeah. So it is. This is like the Taraba was an excellent place for people to choose to live. It is excellent, excellent farmland, and that's what's going to draw people back to it after this culture disappears.
Ah.
Because after 1500, it kind of falls off pretty rapidly.
They fell off.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
wonder why.
This and just to give you a sense of like how advanced this culture was, especially just how specialized its craftsmanship was. They had paved roads.
Wow.
These people had paved roads. They had dedicated burial sites. They built circular and rectangular mounds with stone walls. They built like just I don't even know what they're for. It's just keeps being mentioned and no one will tell me what it is. It's great.
Well, you forget the traditional archaeologist cop out. It was clearly used for ritual purposes.
And I'm not going. I don't like using that. They even made bone, stone, and gold objects that were elaborately carved. Like these people were master craftsmen.
They got bone, stone, and gold.
So these guys were pretty far out of the way compared to like the rest of like what most people, I guess normal people, I guess, think of like ancient Mesoamerica, like because Costa Rica, if anyone's bad at geography, it's like right there, like that really weird in between area between South America.
And it's in the snaky west coast part of that little bit of land that connects Colombia to Mexico.
Which also for those not familiar, that's in the Darien Gap region, and that also tends to be very hostile. Tends to not be the most hospitable. So like for them to have a little enclave, and it also shows why they weren't very territorial, and also shows why they were quite protected.
Yeah,
because my first thought
it's an uninterrupted culture of about 3,000 years that does not have the need for expansionism.
Because my first thought is like when I think of something that far south is the Maya.
Yeah, no, these things are actually
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to me.
These people are very small, very far south. They do quite well for themselves. They sculpt the stone spears, and these spears are placed in important locations within settlements. They are always placed in a line along public plazas, main thoroughfares, and apparently in several places along the routes to the homes of the elite. So sort of like the driveway up to the presidential palace is just lined with these. For what to draw like a sort of anachronistic modern times equivalent of imagine if the walkway up to the White House just had orbs the size of men just dotting it as like go this way.
Honestly, you would never get lost. Like you have a few too many drinks down at the local watering hole, and then you're like, oh yeah, I live right by the stone spheres, and you just keep walking your way up. And you got something to balance yourself on.
There's a lot of fun things with these. However, by 1500, this is the last we see of the Disquis, because the Spanish make their way to the area in the 16th century, and they make no note of the Disquis, of the spears, or of any signs of human settlements in the area. So within a century, they're gone. There is no visible sign of them. Now, they're living on an alluvial plain, so once you stop maintaining that society, it gets buried relatively quick.
Like I said, the floods, they bring up a lot of dirt and sediments from the bottom of the river and deposit it onto the beds. So you see a lot of soil development, and it happens quick.
From 1500 to 1570, they completely disappear, because that's when Parafin de Ribera enters the valley along the Taraba, and there's nothing there. They have completely disappeared prior to direct Spanish contact. And the main theory behind this is that when the Spanish arrived in the New World, they brought things like smallpox with them. And these diseases would push out ahead of the Spanish and weaken local populations. Well, the Disquis are a relatively small population, and it's theorized that they were wiped out
just before the Spanish really even found them.
Yeah, before the Spanish even found them, through contact with other tribes, because they did have trade network at this time, even though it is a relatively inhospitable area and that trade network is limited. All it takes is one person coming back infected to wipe out everyone.
Wow.
This is this is stories of plague and death. So the Spanish annihilated an entire civilization without ever even coming into contact with it.
That's
That just makes
power. That's influence.
That's like just imagining like all of the cultures that have been wiped out just in the Americas in general without ever actually seeing a European colonist.
No, they never saw one. They likely never even heard of them.
You know, I that does lead me to think sometimes, and I've had this thought before because we talk about disease quite often, especially in our field. What if the populations genuinely did stay separated until like modern era? Would there just be like a slew of vaccinations that people would have? I'm sure you'd get the bad actors who were like, I'm not going to do vaccinations. Like,
well, I think what would happen is you would have 1,000 different medical practices for 1,000 different diseases, all of which would be absolutely devastating to everyone not as a part of that community, but would not really have a cure either, because you don't really need a cure for, say, bubonic plague when 9 out of 10 people from a population that has survived it are immune. You don't really prioritize the development of that. It's just the sad fact of how science and medicine work.
I mean, if there's no
prioritize whatever is killing the most people currently.
I mean, there is, because
always, but yeah, I understand what you're getting at.
Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Yeah.
If there's no reason to develop something against smallpox, because smallpox doesn't exist to you.
But see, that's just it. Diseases like smallpox did exist to the Europeans, albeit in lower numbers.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just mean like in general, for your scenario.
And it's just like in your scenario, like smallpox to the Europeans, it was considered a disease, it was considered deadly, but it wasn't a catastrophic societal threat, because generally Europeans had some resistance or immunity to it, whereas to all these other populations that had never encountered the disease before, it was, it's going to kill everyone. And that's the issue you have. If everyone stays separated, then everyone brings their disease to the table all at once, and everybody dies.
Yeah, I guess that's just one of those weird ethical quandaries, that we can't really deal with, but we talk about these genocides. It's an ethical
quandary. It's just a weird thought experiment.
Well, I mean, the whole thing behind it is the amount of just straight up genocides of different populations of indigenous cultures because of that.
Yeah, well, I'm not entirely sure that this is necessarily genocide, as it wasn't really directed. This was, a disease, a non-weaponized disease, is not necessarily a weapon for killing. It's not like this isn't like during the years during the French and Indian War, where the British colonists in the United States were giving Native Americans smallpox-laden blankets.
I thought that
was not intentionally delivering a disease to a population. This is just, I have what is a cold for me that is lethal for you, and it has passed through intermediaries from me to you, purely by the fact that we both exist. Like, this is not intentional. You want to talk about what the Spanish did to the cultures they actually ran into before wiping them out? That we can call the big nasty G word. But this is more just a thing that happened, a horrible thing that happened that no one intended, because you can't intend harm on people you don't know exist.
That's the Spanish influence. What can you say?
I'm a conquistador you.
Oh,
I know where you live.
This Columbus Day.
I will show up on your driveway, burn my boat, and march inward.
This year on Columbus Day, Colum colonizes Justin's house.
The name of my people has been slandered. Anyway,
yeah.
Moving back to what we were supposed to talk about today.
The part that we're all hyped for.
Yeah. From 1570 to 1930, the Disquis are more or less left alone. There's sort of no reason to go in the valley. There's no reason to inhabit it. It's all left behind. until the arrival of the United States corporate entities, namely the United Fruit Company, one of my favorite companies in the history of the world, and that is not a compliment.
Dun,
If
dun,
I like
dun.
you, if I like you and you're from history, you did something very, very wrong. So, the United Fruit Company was clearing land in the Disquis Valley for banana plantations.
Oh, because nothing bad ever came from plantations.
Yeah, and while they were doing that, they came across these stone spears buried in the ground. And they decided that they wanted to do one of two things with them. Number one, the ones that they could remove, they took out and used it as lawn ornaments to decorate the homes of important corporate CEOs and other such officers. The other thing they did was dynamite them.
Of course.
Because it's 1930. This is an American company. What do you mean everyone's not armed with grenades?
Or TNT, you know.
Yeah.
Like a Minecraft character just using TNT to mine their way through any obstacle.
Yeah, basically.
Jesus Christ.
It is. It was literally done simply because it was some of the spears were just considered too inconvenient to haul out and use as a garden gnome. For those, and so right here, as we have understanding this company, we want your viewers to understand just why this company is such a problem, why its appearance here is such a horrific milestone in the history of Costa Rica, in the history of the Disquis, even though they are, by this point, a culture that has been extinct for at least 400 years.
And it's also something that I think we're going to do an entire podcast episode about in the future.
We might have to.
I think we're going to. We were talking about this pre-production.
Yeah. So the Disquis. So with regards here, the United Fruit Company. If you recall, we once did a podcast on the Gilded Age and all the robber barons and captains of industry and all the horrible, horrible things they did as a result of industrialization. If you were to take all those companies, all those abusive, humanity companies that existed from that time, they were to have a child, and they were to have a child, and into that child they poured their cruelty, their malice, and their will to dominate all life in Latin America. You would have the United Fruit Company.
Well, before you get that, I think you need to double it and pass it to the next guy before you get to the United Fruit Company.
Oh.
Like, all those atrocities are double.
No. Listen, listen, all right, they are the one ring of corporate evil.
The one ring to rule them all.
Yep, that's what I was doing. That was the intro, baby.
All right, so what did you... All right, give me the bullet points. What did United Fruit Company do wrong for all of those playing at home?
Yeah, so the United Fruit Company was founded in 1899. It went defunct in 1970 and 1984. But remember, just because you cut the ring from Sauron's hand does not mean he's dead, as this company still exists under the guise of Chiquita Brands International. During their time as United Fruit Company, they had a habit of openly bribing government officials for favorable, just favors in general and favorable outcomes and all sorts of things. They did not hide it even the slightest. Like, I'm talking straight up cash in your mailbox kind of hit it.
Well, of course, they were the big guys on the block. They had the United States government.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, they really did. This company had a long history of corrupt practices, including its refusal to it almost never paid any taxes that weren't U.S. taxes.
Oh, so you mean like in the companies they operated in?
Yeah. So basically, it would go into it did not pay taxes to the countries it operated in, despite at several times owning almost half the land in that country.
Jesus Christ.
They did not pay any property, production, import, export, or income tax whatsoever to those countries. If you're wondering, How well that goes for people? Not very well. In 1954, the United Fruit Company overthrew the government of Guatemala. Why, you ask? Because the head of the CIA was on its board of directors.
Gee, so the United States' intelligence agency had a vested interest in this privatized fruit company that owns more than half the land in a country where the new politicians had a non-favorable perspective of said fruit company.
Yep. Because in 1950, the legally elected government was threatening. In 1950, they were threatening. They were elected, and they began to threaten land reforms that would basically take away United Fruit Company's monopoly on all property in Guatemala.
See,
in response to this, the CIA overthrew the entire government.
But the thing is, and this is the part that frustrates me, is we're talking about this as if this is an isolated event. No. The United States, at this point in time, were professionals at this.
Listen, this act right here indirectly sparks the communist revolution in Cuba, as shortly before the Bay of Pigs invasion, Fidel Castro issues a threat to the United States government stating, "We are no Guatemala."
The thing is, I talked about this in
this
one of
company is the reason why we call a lot of Central American republics banana republics. It's because of all the things this company has done, and we haven't even got to the worst stuff yet.
I want to point out the fact that the United States' first attempt at this kind of diplomacy, let's polish the turd. Let's call it diplomacy. The United States first used this kind of diplomacy with Hawaii, which we know is our 50th or 49th state, technically.
No, it's our 50th.
I thought Alaska was last.
I thought Alaska was 49.
Regardless of the order, it was the penultimate or ultimate state, which one of the reasons the United States got access to it was because of the pineapple plantations and some banana plantations on the island. A bunch of Americans moved there, and then they're like, hey, we're not being represented with our interests, even though we're foreigners on this land. So then they brought in a bunch of military experts who helped those Americans stage a coup d'etat against the monarchy.
Yeah, to be fair, that was dull and not United Fruits.
I know, but still, dull. Like, this is why we have to do an episode. We have to talk about these atrocities.
Anyway, point of clarification. Alaska and Hawaii were admitted the same year. However, Alaska is technically the 49th and Hawaii is the 50th.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I concede the point.
Because they were both admitted in 1959.
Oh no, because I didn't know they were both admitted the same year. I just could have swore Hawaii was 50th.
Yeah, no, Hawaii is 50th. It's just they were admitted at the same time, and so, they technically both have the same time stamp, but for the purposes of counting.
But the differentiation between Hawaii and Guatemala is Guatemala wasn't then subsequently annexed. By this point, that was kind of frowned upon. So all they did was they just reconstructed the government internally.
Yes, frowned upon. I believe the reason it was frowned upon, especially at the end of the Spanish-American War, was the color of the skin of the people who lived there.
Well, also, by this point, this is 1954, and I think at this point, imperialist growing and holdings were kind of frowned upon even more. Because...
that's the reason why we didn't, annex Guam and Cuba when we won the Spanish-American War. The U.S. politicians at the time didn't want more non-white voters.
It's also why Puerto Rico is a territory, not a state.
Yeah, that explains a lot. That's pretty far for the
world.
And also
anyway,
the Philippines.
Or at least the U.S.
Would you like to get back to the worst thing the United Fruit Company has done? And this even is this is before they found the spears. So just to understand that, they didn't find the spears and then become evil. They were kind of evil the whole time, because in 1928, 2 years before they even get into Costa Rica, the United Fruit Company organizes the Colombian Banana Massacre. Now, allegedly, according to the testimony of the Colombian general who carried out the massacre, the only reason he murdered 3,000 striking Colombian citizens who worked at a United Fruit Company plantation was because the United Fruit Company had told him in no uncertain terms that if the Colombian government did not put down this strike, the United States Navy would invade and overthrow the government of Colombia.
Whoa.
And fearing for the destruction of his homeland, he did it. This is according to his testimony. It has not been confirmed because there's no way in hell the CIA is going to tell you that, yes, we threaten the sovereignty of another nation over a corporate wage strike.
To be fair, that would not be out of the realm of possibility after the whole Panama situation.
Panama, Hawaii.
But we are never admitting to it. However obvious it may be.
Yeah, no, I think in hindsight and looking at the track record, the U.S. and these fruit barons tend to have a modus operandi.
Yeah.
Look at Justin using the Latin.
But yeah,
you're not the only people that know Latin. I know like 4 words.
Yeah. So just so you understand how horrified we are that it is the United Fruit Company that is finding it, and how we are grateful that their first instinct was lawn ornaments and not murder everything in sight.
I guess, yeah.
Because these people's response to the slightest inconvenience is destroy the country.
It's like TNT. TNT.
Right. Before Justin gets us copyright struck for that horribly off-tune lilting, I'm going to go back to the Disquis spear. So, as you might have gathered, the Disquis were a pre-contact, prehistoric people. They didn't have any form of writing. They didn't ever come in contact with Europeans. And as such, we don't really know what they were called. They are called Disquis because that is the name of the valley in which most of their culture can be found. The valley lends its name to the spears. It lends its name to the Disquis culture. We're really just sort of naming them after a place at this point.
Which the proper term for this is an exonym.
Yeah, it is it is an exonym. That's the fancy word, but driving home the the layman's definition for the most part at this point. Now, you might be fearing for the Disquis spears, and by rights you should. However, they are currently protected, and as of 2022, more of them are being discovered and excavated. The current effort is to preserve them in situ, which is inside, which basically means we dig around them, we reveal them, and then we put them right back where they were as best we can. This is for 2 very important reasons. Number one, we're trying to understand what these, as archaeologists, what these spears mean. We have no idea what they mean. Almost all the ones we have were uprooted and tossed on someone's lawn because they thought they made a nice lawn ornament.
Wow,
so we're trying.
This rock is really round. I want it in my yard.
Yeah, so we're trying to establish the context and understand what is, why is spear here. The other reason is, again, we have no idea what mattered to the Disquis people, what their culture was, and so removing these could very well be a sacrilege, a taboo against this culture. And rather than further desecrate a dead people's art and architecture, it's better to just study it and let it be.
Let it be.
Let
it be. And the excavations around these stone spheres were conducted by the Instituto Nacional de Antropología y Historia, which is the INAH, the National Institute for Anthropology and History, and the National Museum of Costa Rica, El Museo Nacional de Costa Rica. So, you got a couple of really prominent organizations within Costa Rica that are Costa Rican. So you don't tend to have the British Museum problem here, which is pretty good.
No, it's very nice, and that actually leads into something a few steps down, because, see, when this was promoted to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2014, the Disquis spears became one of the most well-protected UNESCO sites in the entire world.
Wow.
Because the Costa Rican government will not, under any circumstances, let anything other than a Costa Rican institute touch them.
Wow.
That's fair.
Uh,
That's
which-
fair.
That's really fair.
yeah,
But, wow.
yeah. There are two key laws here. Costa Rica's law number 6703 on national archaeological heritage, and Costa Rica's presidential decree 36825-C, which grants exclusive legal authority to the sites to the state through the National Archaeological Commission and the National Museum, which means that archaeologists, specifically state archaeologists, are in charge of the site directly and answer to no one but themselves.
God.
Meaning that the archaeologists have a free, there is no outside influence, there is no corporate money sponsor. It is straight up, we are protecting this, so help you God.
God, I really am earning a lot of respect for this place, both in the past and current. Like, that is huge that they just have such stringent laws. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and one of the two things that made the excavation we were referencing earlier, which is the 2022 publication, one of the things that makes it very notable is number one, going back to United Fruit Company, one of the spears bears scars from the United Fruit Company's attempts apparently to remove it or from running machines over it.
Ooh.
As these spears were buried about 2 meters deep, so about 6 feet. The other thing is that this particular site on what is called Farm 6 is one of the few times a foreign entity has been allowed to enter and study with them, as a Mexican institution was allowed to come down and help with the excavation. So it's one of the few times that they've let someone else in for this, because these spears are protected and the Costa Rican government will have none of it as far as any harm ever coming to this site.
Or for them to end up in certain institutions across the ocean.
They're already there. There are about 300 that are known to exist in lawns, gardens, and museums worldwide.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, from about 1930 to, I'm just going to call, about, I'm going to call 1970 here, about the 40 years before the United Fruit Company goes under for the first time. They're just ripping these out of the ground and chucking them wherever. Maybe they sell them off. Maybe, people just walk away with them because they can.
Doesn't matter as long as they're planting their bananas.
Yeah, what matters is they're making way for the plantation. So there's about 40 years of people for the first time re-inhabiting this area and just tossing everything out of their way. So there's a lot of damage to most of what would be the sites in the valley. The 4 sites that are on the UNESCO World Heritage List are sites that Dole really didn't get into too much. Or I'm sorry, United Fruit didn't really get into too much. I'm confusing my evil fruit companies now.
Yeah, Dole was Hawaii.
Thank you for that, Justin.
No problem.
But yeah, it is a major deal that, it is. The government has gone all in on protecting these sites.
Which
Good
is,
for them.
honestly great, because you don't see a lot of people putting this kind of protection on a site.
No, it is not, and the best part is it's also putting protection on it that doesn't require some outside source beyond the government to deal with it. Like, a lot of times the protection is put in, but you have to go beg for money from somewhere else. It's a federal protection, but someone else has to fund you. And it's like, well, that compromises the whole point of it being protected. There's none of that there in the Costa Rican version, insofar as I could tell. And I really am happy about that.
Big dub for Costa Rica there. Big dub.
Yeah, and let's talk about the spears themselves now, because we've been talking up the history of these spears and these people. Let's get a little bit better of what they looked like and what they're made of. So these spears range from about a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter. They are made from gabbro, which has to have the best definition of a rock I've seen in a long time. This brought me back to so many geology classes.
Oh God.
Gabbro is a phaneritic, mafic, intrusive, igneous rock, which basically means it's a rough stone that's similar to basalt. It comes from a volcano. It's rough, and it's kind of like basalt. So it's just this rough stone.
Yeah, that just put me back in a geology class. Thank you. I hate you for it, but thank you.
How are you gonna...
Phaneritic, mafic, intrusive, igneous rock.
I didn't need you to repeat it twice.
I mean, like, come on, man. Geology rocks.
I like geology.
See,
I liked it.
It's fun. It's interesting. But when you start looking at the different soil profiles, which, fun fact for everyone, the entire United States government has the entire soil profile of the entire country in a database, and you can look it up to see what soils are supposed to be present where. It is awful. Anyway.
All right, Munsell chart.
No, it's like worse than that. It's the USDA soil map.
Shoot, we don't like that. You know, we don't want to talk about the dirt. We want to talk about the stone.
Well, you get one, you get both.
Done. We are dwarves. We want stone cutting. We're not farmers.
We are farmers.
Die. We're not sponsored. Hit the spray bottle.
But if we were...
Is that an insurance company?
Farmers, these people are going to need insurance real quick. Please sponsor.
Yeah, please. All right. Continuing on, though.
A few spears are actually not made of gabbro, but are made of sandstone or limestone, which is a rather curious outside choice. We don't know why they chose this rock to make the spears from, or why they wouldn't choose gabbro in some cases. It's really quite a mystery, and that's the big thing with the spears, is most things about them are a mystery.
I think you do kind of answer it with the next point, though.
Yeah.
Because they were sculpted using hard hammer percussion. Yeah.
Yes, they were hammered down into a roughly spherical shape with denser rocks. Many of these spears still bear the marks of the simple stone tools. And I say simple because that's technically what it is, as if, shaping a river stone to fit on the end of a stick tied together with twine and hempen rope is something that anyone can just do in an afternoon.
Well, yeah, you're going to have skilled artisans who are expert flint knappers.
Yeah, this is centuries of tool expertise coming in here just to get the hammer to hack at the stone with.
But anyways, they used harder stones to shape the more malleable, softer. You want to say your word one more time?
Yeah, you want me to? I'm not gonna say again, but basically my question before was why, when gabbro is the norm, why would they sometimes choose limestone or sandstone? Like, if you make all your buildings out of granite, why are you suddenly making one building that isn't made out of granite?
Because sometimes people like marble.
My initial gut reaction to that question, it goes one of two ways, just off the hip. Like, my first thought is availability of materials. Was it either an easily more accessible material and higher abundance? Was it easier to work with? Like, those are the questions that I think I would try to answer first.
Yeah. Maybe sandstone.
It's one of the things where it's like, there's only, there's, several hundred gabbro, and there's maybe a dozen out of both sandstone or limestone. So it's like, why did they choose seemingly at a random interval to not use gabbro? What happened where they suddenly used limestone for 3 and then went back to gabbro? What happened?
I was like, my guess would be like something significant happened, and that that would just, like, maybe it's like a marker, like, so if anybody within the context of those stones saw that, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know where that happened. Like, that was because this and this happened.
What if it was like a calendar? Each stone represented like a year, and the different material ones were something very significant happened.
You got there is some. We'll save that for there's a speculation section on that. We have like Stonehenge for some reason. There's a lot of weird.
Okay, pseudoscience is not. You did this to trigger me, and you're.
There's, read the last section. No, go to page 3. Read the final section.
I'm
all there
aware
to trigger you.
I'm aware. I read through the outline ahead of time. I know what's coming. It doesn't
makes
make me
one
any
of
happier. Outed.
All right. So then, after they've hammered them down into a roughly circular shape, they polish them till they're almost perfectly smooth and relatively spherical using sand. Well, and even though all the spears aren't perfectly round, they are all very smooth because they performed literal sanding. They literally dumped sand and rubbed it on the rock.
Honestly, that's pretty smart.
It's like it's like everyone says, "Oh, we gotta sand that down." No, that's not how you sand something down. You get a bag of sand, you dump it on the object, and you roll it around.
That
You're not wrong.
The thing is, like, that's the origin of sanding. That's the origin of the word. But the interesting thing is, like, that shows, again, more levels of skilled craftsmanship, because that knowledge, you don't just, like, figure out. That's, like, a skilled thing that you learn and you figure out over a lifetime of expertise.
Yeah. And these spears, they were placed in important locations, public plazas, roads, routes to the ruling elite. Their purpose isn't known, except that they had an association with things that were important. They were prestige objects at the very least. Because, if you see something outside, outside the main thoroughfare, the central plaza, and the house of the person in charge, that has to be associated with power or importance at some level.
You want to know what the really ironic thing is, though? They still kind of symbolize that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the later points, is pretty much all of the spheres have been removed from their original location, and they are now prized lawn ornaments in Costa Rica as a sign of wealth and ability, and look at what I have.
Yep. The Costa Ricans just innately knew what to do with these.
I guess.
I don't know what it is, but I know what it's for.
It's going to look great on my lawn.
What if that was, like, genuinely the origin of them? Was they were just like, you had one really skilled craftsman who was a lawn orn salesman.
Oh my! We're going into Panhandle, Florida, and we're finding all the pink flamingos.
Yeah, basically, these are the pink flamingos.
My!
Oh, that's hell! That's hell and a half. I hate you.
The limestone and the granite ones are the cheap knockoffs. Like, oh, you know what? Steve got the knockoff.
How do you know? It's like, how do you know which one's the leader around here? You see that big round stone over there? Yeah. That's the lawn ornament. That's how we know.
Yeah.
Because all the houses look the same because they put all the effort in the fucking stone.
Yes. He paid 5 people 2 years' wages to make that thing. I don't get modern art.
I don't get paid either.
I only paid 2 people 1 year to do this one. Like, he got ripped off.
Yeah. So yes, several spears have made their way to important places. 6 are in the courtyard of Costa Rica's National Museum in San Jose.
Okay, I can't.
So there are 6 outside the museum, which is really nice. And then my personal favorite in here, not definitely because it's going to trigger Justin or anything, but in 2012, the Met Museum in New York City acquired a 850-pound 26-inch spear, and true to the Met's collecting practices, for an artifact only ever found in a single valley of a single country, they are not even sure it's from Costa Rica.
Gee, I wonder where this large sphere could come from. It looks like a duck. It sounds like a duck. It quacks like a duck.
All legitimate spears are from a single valley in Costa Rica. And the Met did such a good job with keeping records and acquiring this thing legally that they don't even have that confirmed, that it was imported from Costa Rica.
For those of you who don't watch our other content, we did a whole video talking about the Met Museum in New York City and their absolutely abysmal record keeping, to the point of, what was it, like 50% of their artifacts have, like, awful
they published a list of like 2,000 artifacts, only like 3 of which had any form of provenance, which is to say history of where it came from.
And you want to know what the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is? Not long after that video was published, another prominent YouTube channel, I don't remember the one off the top of my head, came out and was talking about how most or a lot of artifacts are actually faked, but people don't care.
Yeah, that's pretty true with Cycladic figurines. I was in the Cycladic Museum in like Athens at one point. They have about 900 of them. Maybe 100 are real.
Jeez.
But it's just displaying them because what people have done is they've taken a real one and they've imitated it 100 times and just made copies.
But the
So
imitations
there's like 100
also...
versions of the same one just lined out in a wall going, can you find the one that's real?
But they also become experts in it, which in itself is an art form. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, some of the forgeries are so good that even experts don't really know. So they just kind of float around in a gray area.
Yeah, but it's just the Met bought one. You bought an 850-pound artifact, and you can't even be bothered to make sure it's coming out of the only country that can provide any legitimacy to it. You don't even have that.
God.
No one said
Like,
they made good decisions.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, these things have been looted for 90 years at this point. So I'm not asking you for the exact site. I'm just asking you to have a stamp on the box that says it came out of Costa Rica.
To be fair, if they did, that would give them more argument to, or might give people more argument to, send it back. And that's something the Met doesn't want.
Yeah, so that could be kind of skillful
this was
politics.
purchased in 2012 after the absolute thieving binge had ended, but yeah.
Well, no, I understand where Aaron's coming from, though. There's already one that had been... that had wandered away from its original location. And the people who sold it to the Met were probably the ones who the stone wandered with. And the Met went, okay, yeah, we know it's legitimate because there's a trail of ownership, but we're just going to say we don't know the history because if we do, then we have to repatriate it, or there may be a call for us to repatriate. And we know how much organizations absolutely adore repatriation.
Especially since some of the big, like one of the things about repatriation, especially in that process, people either genuinely or annoyingly, in some cases, as in like annoyingly, as in they use it as a method to prevent them from having to send it back. They want to verify that it is 100% from there, but also at the same time, it's like it's a giant sphere. Where else do you find them, right? But
it's going to get repatriated to a Target in Albuquerque.
Right. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like they're using plausible deniability, but in a legal sense, but like in common sense, like you could just say they're lying.
Yeah.
It really is that plausible deniability, though, if we're just going to call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
But all right, now let's get on to
our favorite part. So there is no archaeologically or scientifically agreed on purpose for these stone spears. And in the absence of archaeologists saying with 100% definite fact this is what this thing is, people give you all kinds of theories, and oh boy, does this place have some.
Just as long as it's not linked to Atlantis. Just please, for the love of God.
We can't take it anymore.
No.
The spears are a sign that that Costa Rica used to have a bridge into the Pacific to the lost continent of Atlantis.
No!
Oh, God!
Now, not only is the fact that this is on the Pacific coast of a country that only borders the Pacific, and the Atlantis is supposed to be in the Atlantic, which is on the other side of the continent from this country.
Not everything in archaeology ties back to Atlantis.
Not only that, but Atlantis never existed because Atlantis was a thought experiment on social engineering proposed by the philosopher Plato. All right, it was a fictional place for him and his students to debate what makes a good society.
No, I can't do this anymore. Atlantis is real. Archaeologists are hiding it from you. Like, come on. Wake up, sheep.
Take the shot! Take the shot!
No.
Listen. I get it, okay? You were bought out by Namor, but the rest of us, are still working legitimately.
Not anymore.
Oh God.
Everyone's least favorite MCU hero.
Literally no one has heard of him. No one.
Yet he's in Wakanda too.
Wait, is he? I haven't seen it yet.
He's the villain.
Spoilers.
Oh.
In
Anyways,
all the trailers, he's the villain.
like
It's supposed to be Black Panther versus Namor is the movie.
I just love how anytime there's anything even remotely unexplained about history. I mean, Colum, you and I did a reaction to William Shatner's TV show, The Unexplained, about some of life's unexplained mysteries.
He's betrayed the show which brought him to power.
Let's be real. He hated Trek. He hated Star Trek.
He hates everything. Let's just move
I know,
on.
but like, anyways, he promotes a lot of pseudoscience, a lot of conspiracy theories, and there's just none of it's founded in fact. And people will always go, "Well, they're hiding the fact." No, if you have no evidence, then there's no evidence.
Yep. So speaking of no evidence, the second big theory for the spears is that they are alien architecture.
God damn it!
Because
What?
objects without clear purpose made by an indigenous people equals aliens somehow.
Aliens.
Yeah. Which, by the way, given that we have the tool markings of simple stone tools on these spears, these must have been aliens who were still in the Stone Age when they got here on their spaceship. So Stone Age spaceship.
No. They had very sophisticated lasers that mimic the technologies of the people that they were around.
No, Justin. They were a lithic people. Think about it. Lithics are stone. They had radioactive technology. It was a nuclear-powered UFO. Because uranium is a rock.
Wait, is that the same UFO that crashed off the Yucatan and ended the dinosaurs?
Possibly.
Oh, no!
Let's just do the time warp again, baby. Come on, Aaron. You gotta do the swing with me. Do the time warp again.
It was only funny when we had Caleb watch it and he had no clue what was going on.
Oh. Anyways, yeah. So there's a lot of pseudosciences with it, and it's just
it's horrible. The next one is one which you guys give more credit to than I do. That these were compasses.
Compasses?
Honestly, that
because
was
of course
my joke originally.
Yeah, because of course having lines of orbs following a paved road to help you in case you get lost and didn't realize you were already on a paved road.
No, but it could just be something to line the pathway with. I mean, flooding was a big thing. Yeah. It could be quite literally that it becomes a stone pathway. I don't know how far apart they're apart, but what if it just became skipping stones?
They're typically just a little bit further apart from what I've seen. A little bit further apart than your standard shovel tests.
Are you telling me these people are you suggesting?
Yes.
Are you suggesting that they are jumping across them wipeout style? And then, like,
all right, everyone, time for the big stone balls.
All right, it is time for the election for our next great chief. The who can make it the farthest wins. Last year, Tom managed to
that's going to be a tibia fracture.
Tom had made it 300 stones. So this year we hired the best stone masons, and they have created an additional 10 stones.
Yeah.
How would you use the sandstone ones? Those would erode so quickly in the water.
I don't necessarily deny that I don't necessarily deny that they might have been good for marking where the road is supposed to be during mild flooding.
Yeah.
But to say that they were a compass is either you don't know what a compass is, or you think these stones have some sort of mystic magnetic property that they clearly don't have, because otherwise we wouldn't need them to be lined up.
Is this like a collectible kind of situation where if we want to get the true ending of a video game, we have to collect all the stones?
Collect all 300 stone spears.
Oh
God.
Including the one in the bonus level at the Met.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That if we ever create a mobile game, that needs to be one of the levels where you have to go through and collect the Disquis stone spheres. And one of the levels is robbing the Met.
No, guys, you don't understand. These things will take us to the One Piece. They're like the poneglyphs in One Piece that take you all the way to Laptail. Guys! It's
Oh,
it's
what
in
if you finally
Central America. The Caribbean's right there.
wait, Aaron? Even more conspiratorial. What if they're like the Dragon Balls, and you bring them all together, and they unlock the culture? The people come back.
They summon Shenron, and you
The
get
spaceship
one win.
descends from the heavens, and the society returns triumphantly as someone has solved their centuries-long puzzle.
God.
This is so wrong.
Atlantis
All right.
broke. Dragon Ball, real life Dragon Balls are poneglyphs from One Piece. Woke.
Yeah,
All right.
come on.
There is one more. There is one more theory that I'm just going to have labeled as completely wrong here for the spears. There's one more. And that's that the spears are grave markers. Because, putting your dead in the middle of a street is so respectful. Two things are wrong with this.
In the middle of the
two things wrong. Number one, not even taking population into account, there's way too few. And number two, they had dedicated graves at the time they were producing these spears, in mass. They had dedicated burial sites. None of those burial sites and no burials have been found in association with the spears. This theory is a European European anachronism, and it is the idea of the tombstone.
Oh man!
What if it was actually a stone crypt, and you have to crack the spheres open like an egg?
They are people, not chickens. Stop making omelets.
But when life gives you eggs.
Wait. That's why they're from aliens, right? It's alien eggs, and you can crack them open.
Oh my god! And they stopped hatching. That's why the civilization.
They petrified.
Oh
no,
my god!
These are just giant chicken eggs, like from that Jimmy Neutron movie.
We literally put them under a heat ray, and it becomes like we hatch our own species of aliens.
Just the Jurassic Park music is playing in the background now. But it's on the kazoo, so it's extra painful.
Yeah. Oh no!
God. Yeah, they look. These were they're just prestige objects, guys. Please just accept that they are prestige objects. They don't need a greater purpose. We don't need to invent a whole nother species or civilization.
Honestly,
to
if
give
you guys
them
made
meaning.
it to this point in the podcast,
the Disquis give them meaning.
No, if you guys made it to this point in the podcast, drop a comment down below letting us know your own conspiracy theory for what these stone spheres actually were for.
Yeah.
Honestly,
give them a picture of the spears one more time so that they have a point of reference right convenient for this challenge.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, again, people like Graham Hancock and William Shatner, they think these have to be some grand point, there has to be some grand scheme for these balls that are just kind of laying around. But to be perfectly honest, there is nothing more human than just doing something just because you can.
I mean, that's 90% of art. We just got started with art because people started putting their handprints on the wall. Yeah. Then they go, oh, that looks like animal.
Just Ian Malcolm in the background as the Jurassic Park music intensifies. You never stop to think if you should. You were so concerned with if you could.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. All it took was for a bunch of people to be like, yeah, you know what? I like making these stone balls for this entire purpose to symbolize this. Again, a lot of effort. But listen, if you have you have the food surplus and you have somebody who's sitting around thinking this is what I want, and all it takes is for that to become a tradition.
That's all it takes is someone to go, you know what? I got enough food. I'll support this guy while he does this.
Yeah.
Listen, it is. If it sounds
listen.
stupid and simple, then that's probably what it generally kind of sounds.
Charlie Brown getting a rock for Halloween has never been more important.
It sounds simple. It sounds simple and underwhelming. So not really stupid or anything, but simple and underwhelming. That's what it sounds like in this explanation. But honestly, that's usually what it is. Was there no egg? Is it not
It's
an egg?
not
It's
an egg.
Eh,
A number of them were dynamited. They are literally
Alright,
these
alright.
rocks. Specifically, phaneritic, mafic, intrusive igneous rocks.
I like rocks.
all right. Egg theory is off the table. Sorry, guys.
I'm more of a
It's too close to
metamorphic.
Easter at the time of this recording. Justin is still looking for the eggs left for him by the Easter bunny.
I just
I'm not
want to
gonna
make an omelet using the Easter bunny's eggs, you know?
To be fair, given the price of eggs right now, making an omelet's kind of expensive.
Well,
Yeah, call
it's
the
a
Easter
flex.
bunny. Like the Easter bunny's just laying eggs
He's
everywhere.
just pimping out right now. He's balling.
All right. I think we've officially lost our heads if we even had them in the first place.
Ooh, we should talk about
would
the
you
Olmec
say,
heads.
like,
Oh, no.
we're running around like chickens with their head cut
We did
off?
the Easter Island heads. We're running out of craniums.
No,
I can find some
Olmec, like I said, we could talk Olmecs. They're nice and round, except those, whenever the ruler died or was disposed, his next the next person up would blow up the head and have him carve a throne out of him. That's ingenuity. But yeah, on that
That's just
bombshell,
recycling.
I think that's a good point to wrap up, like you're saying. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please drop a like down below. And yeah, like I said earlier, if you have a conspiracy theory, leave it in the comments down below. Let us know your wackiest, wildest theory. And if we like it, we'll pin it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week. Or in 2 weeks.